Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening up the spreadsheet on AFT Dice Season 1.
Oh yeah, the spreadsheet.
And I really have to say, just looking at the data from these first 6 rounds, I'm starting to question everything I thought I actually knew about probability.
Right, because we usually think of rolling dice as this pure chaotic element, just random number generation.
Exactly. But looking at this league, it feels like there's an actual narrative emerging from the chaos.
It is the classic debate, isn't it? Signal versus noise. I mean, when you replace human athletes with dice rolls, you would expect a completely flat distribution of results eventually.
But we aren't seeing that at all.
No, we aren't. We are 6 rounds in, and we are seeing distinct personalities emerging for these teams. Some are chaotic neutral, some are lawful good, and some are just
really struggling.
Yeah, struggling is a polite way to put it.
It's just so fascinating because we have this snapshot of a league in motion for you to look at. We have massive score lines. I mean, truly huge totals.
Oh, absolutely massive.
And then we have a ladder that is so tight in the middle, it looks like a glitch in the software.
It really does look like a glitch. We call it the deadly middle, and we will definitely get to that. But it is statistically bizarre to have this many teams tied on the exact same record this early on. It suggests the league is incredibly balanced, or maybe that the dice are just cruel.
Or both.
Yeah.
So the mission for this deep dive is to kind of cut through all that noise. We are going to look at the headlines, the clear leader, that crazy logjam in the middle, and the biggest statistical anomalies.
Sounds good.
But I want to really dig into why this is happening. Is it just pure luck, or is there an actual strategy to winning a dice league?
There is absolutely a strategy. It usually boils down to volatility management. Do you want to be the team that rolls high variance, lots of 6s and lots of 1s, or the team that grinds out the averages?
Well, let's look at the team that is supposedly mastering that grind right now. We have to start at the top with Carlton. They're sitting pretty at number 1 with a 5-1 record. On paper, they look completely dominant.
They do. And dominant in this context really means consistent. They started the season in round 1 beating Essendon 80-76.
Which is a real grinder of a game.
Exactly, a grinder. Then you look at round 6, they bookended this block of games with a solid win over Sydney, 102-82. They just seem to be able to win the ugly games and the shootouts.
See, I'm going to push back on dominant a little bit here. I look at their record, and yeah, 5-1 is great. But that one in the loss column...
Oh, it was bad.
It was so ugly. Round 2 against Hawthorn, they didn't just lose, they got run off the park. 114-80.
That is the blemish. And it's a significant data point, because Hawthorn is a high-octane offense. That game showed that if you can force Carlton into a track meet, their defense can fracture. They conceded 114 points.
Right.
That is simply not a championship defense number.
Exactly. And if you look at their percentage, which for anyone new to the metric is just the total points scored divided by points allowed, Carlton is sitting at 111.3%.
Which is healthy.
It is healthy, but it's actually lower than the 2 teams sitting below them on the ladder.
And that is the classic winning ugly metric. It tells us Carlton isn't blowing teams out by 50 points every single week. They are winning by 10, winning by 12.
They're efficient.
Very efficient. They're doing just enough to get the 4 points for the win, whereas teams like Sydney or Brisbane are just crushing opponents. That inflates their percentage, but it doesn't get them extra wins on the board.
Speaking of Brisbane, let's talk about the runner-up, the Lions. They're sitting on 18 points, 4 wins, 1 loss, and...
Unicorn.
The draw. I still cannot get over this. Round 3 against North Melbourne. In a format where teams are rolling dice and scoring hundreds of points, how do you end up perfectly tied?
The probability is just incredibly low. Think about it. You have hundreds of individual die rolls per game. For 2 independent scoring tracks to land on exactly 94 apiece.
It's crazy.
It's astronomical odds.
And it wasn't a boring game either.
Not at all. It was a complete wrestle. Brisbane scored 33 in the first quarter, looked like they were going to just run away with it, and then North Melbourne clawed right back.
Wow.
That draw is crucial, though. And a ladder this tight, those 2 points for the draw are literally the buffer keeping Brisbane in second place, totally clear of the chasing pack.
It's the difference between being safe and being in the dogfight. And Brisbane seems to have taken that weird result personally, because they came out in round 6 and just dismantled the Gold Coast Suns.
That was a real statement game. 122-76, a 36-point margin. That tells me Brisbane isn't just relying on luck or scraping by with draws. They have a ceiling that is terrifyingly high. When they roll well, they roll really well.
Which brings us to the team that I honestly think might be the most dangerous in the league despite being in third place. The Sydney Swans. You call them the statistical darlings in your notes.
I did, yes. Yeah, because the math absolutely loves them. They are 4-2, so they have dropped 2 games. But look at that percentage column, 120.9%. That is the best in the league by a significant margin.
That number is heavily influenced by round 2, isn't it? The demolition job.
Sydney 125, Essendon 69.
That scoreline is just absurd. A 56-point margin in a professional league.
It's a massacre.
Yeah.
They scored 647 total points across 6 rounds, which is second only to Hawthorn and Melbourne. Sydney is like a heavy artillery unit. When they are accurate, they obliterate you.
Yeah.
The fact that they have lost 2 games feels more like bad luck or variance than a structural flaw. If I am Carlton, I'm way more worried about Sydney than anyone else.
Well, except maybe the team in fourth. The Hawthorn Hawks. If Sydney is heavy artillery, Hawthorn is just a machine gun held down with a brick.
The Entertainers. They have the highest points for in the entire league. 691 points. They're averaging well over 115 points a game. If you like defensive struggles, do not watch a Hawthorn game.
We have to talk about round 5. Hawthorn versus Collingwood. This was the shootout of the season.
It looked like an NBA scoreline. Hawthorn 141, Collingwood 106.
141 points. How does that even happen? That is barely enough time to roll the dice that many times.
It is relentless. An aggregate score of 247 points. It implies that Hawthorn's strategy, if we can even call it that, is pure offense. They are maximizing their attack rolls. But look at the flip side. They conceded 106 in a win.
Yeah, I am looking at their points against Column for the season. 588 points conceded. That is way higher than Brisbane or Sydney.
Exactly. Brisbane has only conceded 512. Hawthorn is playing a very dangerous game. Their philosophy is basically, we don't care if you score 100 as long as we score 110.
Yeah.
It's exciting. It puts bums on seats. But statistically, high variance strategies usually bite you eventually. You cannot roll 6s forever.
That variance is a perfect segue into our next segment. Because while Hawthorn is blowing teams out, the league has also delivered some absolute heartstoppers. Games decided by 1 or 2 points. This is where the dice element really hurts, doesn't it?
It really does. In a physical sport, you can blame a missed tackle or a drop mark. In AFT Dice, a 1-point loss just feels like the universe personally rejecting you.
Round 2. St Kilda versus Port Adelaide. I feel like we need a moment of silence for St Kilda fans right here.
It was brutal. Final score, Port Adelaide 80, St Kilda 79. But the score doesn't actually tell the story. St Kilda was up 50-29 at halftime.
They were up by 21 points at the half. In a low-scoring game, that is a match-winning lead.
It should have been. But this is where the momentum of probability kicks in. Port Adelaide came out in the second half and scored 51 points. St Kilda completely froze and only managed 29. It was a total inversion of the first half.
So is that choking? Or is that just the law of averages correcting itself in real time?
It feels like a choke to the fans, definitely. But mathematically, it is just regression to the mean happening a bit too fast. St Kilda rolled hot early, cold late. Court did the exact opposite. It just happened to converge at the absolute worst moment for the Saints.
And we saw it again in round 6. Hawthorn involved again because, of course, they were against Melbourne.
Melbourne 109, Hawthorn 107. 2 points.
Again, look at the totals. Both teams over the century. This wasn't a defensive grind. It was a slugfest.
It's the last roll win scenario. When both teams are scoring that heavily, the game often comes down to who literally has the dice in their hand when the siren sounds. Melbourne got the last laugh there.
I want to touch on Essendon here, too. In round 4, they lost to Collingwood 98-96. Essendon is sitting on a 3-3 record, but they feel better than that.
They're the almost team. They lost to Carlton by 4, lost to Collingwood by 2. We are talking about a total margin of 6 points across 2 games. If 2 dice rules go differently, Essendon is 5-1, and we are talking about them as a top 4 powerhouse. Instead, they are stuck in the middle.
And that brings us to the most confusing part of this entire deep dive, the deadly middle.
The logjam.
I was looking at the ladder and my eyes just completely glazed over. Teams ranked 7 through 12, St Kilda, Port Adelaide, GWS, Essendon, Geelong, Melbourne. 6 teams All of them are 3 wins, 3 losses, all on 12 points.
It is incredibly rare to have 33% of the league perfectly tied after 6 rounds. It suggests that the talent disparity or the rating disparity between these teams is almost zero.
So what actually separates them?
Percentage. That's it. St Kilda is technically 7th because their percentage is decent. Melbourne is 12th because theirs is worse.
Right.
But in reality, there is no daylight between them.
And the volatility in this group is wild. Let's look at GWS versus Melbourne in round 4.
This game sums up the deadly middle perfectly. Melbourne scored 128 points to beat GWS, who scored 109.
Even the loser scored 109.
Exactly. In any other era, scoring 109 wins you the game easily. Here, it gets you a loss and a percentage hit, and the inconsistency is maddening. Yeah. Melbourne loses to West Coast in round 2, then puts up 128 in round 4. You don't know which version of the team is showing up because they live and die by the high-risk rolls.
So if you're a fan of a team in this logjam, every single quarter matters now because one bad blowout could tank your percentage and drop you 5 spots.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If you are in this group, you cannot afford a Hawthorn 141 happening against you. You need to protect your percentage as much as you need the actual wins.
Now we have to look at the bottom, the struggle bus. It is not fun down there. Who is really hurting?
Fremantle. They're sitting 18th with a 1-5 record.
Just the one win.
And it was a nail-biter against St Kilda in round 5, 112 to 105. Apart from that, they are just leaking points. They are conceding over 100 points per game on average. In this league, if you cannot stop the bleeding, you cannot win.
North Melbourne isn't faring much better in 17th.
No, they aren't. They had that famous draw and a win against the Bulldogs in round 2, but they are struggling to generate the big scores. They aren't hitting that Century Club consistently enough to keep up with the Sydneys and Hawthorns.
And then there is West Coast in 14th. They're a total enigma to me.
They are the very definition of variance. Look at round 2. They put up 137 points to beat Melbourne. That is a premiership winning score. But then you look at round 5. They won, but they only scored 60 points against Richmond.
137 one week, 60 a few weeks later. That is more than double the output variance.
It's impossible to coach against that, and it's impossible to build a season on it. You cannot rely on exploding for 137 every time. That inconsistency is exactly why they are sitting 14th, despite having the firepower to beat anyone on their day.
You mentioned the Century Club earlier. Scoring over 100 points, it feels like in Season 1, if you aren't scoring 100, you aren't even participating.
It is the new baseline. Offense is king in AFT Dice Season 1. The average winning score is creeping up every single round.
I want to spotlight the Adelaide Crows in round 3 against West Coast. This was an offensive explosion that really caught my eye. They scored 135 points total.
But it's how they did it. Look closely at the 4th quarter.
I'm seeing 33 points.
33 points in a single quarter. Now, think about the mechanics of that. To score 33 points in one quarter requires a sequence of high rolls, 5s and 6s, back to back to back. It is a statistical avalanche.
And West Coast scored 102 in that game. They did their job.
They really did. They scored a century and still lost by 33 points because Adelaide went completely supernova. It reinforces that no lead is safe. If a team catches fire, or rather, if the probability curve spikes, you can concede 30-plus points in a quarter, easily.
But here is the stat that actually scared me. Round 6. Collingwood versus the Western Bulldogs.
I know exactly where you were going with this.
The Bulldogs scored 101 points. In my head, triple digits equals a win, or at least a really tight finish.
Not here. They lost by 28 points.
28 points.
Because Collingwood put up 129.
That has to be demoralizing. You execute your game plan, your offense clicks, you break the century mark.
And you get blown out.
Yeah.
It shifts the paradigm. It means defense in this Dice League might just be a myth. You cannot defend your way to a title. You have to outscore the variance. If the Bulldogs score 101, Collingwood's only answer is to score 129. You can't try to hold Collingwood to 90. The dice just won't let you.
That is a really interesting point. In traditional sports, we say defense wins championships. In AFT Dice, it seems like offense prevents you from losing.
Exactly. The best defense is rolling a 6 when it is your turn to attack.
So let's zoom out a bit. We are 6 rounds in. We have a clear leader in Carlton, but based on what we have discussed, the volatility, the lack of defense, the logjam, are they safe?
I wouldn't say they're safe. They are comfortable, sure. But look at that mid-table logjam. Those 6 teams on 12 points. If the ladder flips next week, say, the teams ranked 7th to 12th all win against the top teams. Suddenly, the gap between 1st and 8th evaporates entirely.
And with the percentage being so incredibly tight, one blowout loss for Carlton could see them drop multiple spots in terms of statistical dominance.
Absolutely, and I would keep a very close eye on the high percentage teams, Sydney and Hawthorn. Percentage acts like a hidden extra point on the ladder. If they catch up on wins, they will leapfrog Carlton simply because of that superior scoring power.
And Brisbane.
Brisbane is the sleeping giant. Losing only once in 6 rounds in a league this chaotic is a serious achievement. They have the draw buffer, they have the high ceiling. I really wouldn't bet against them.
I want to leave the listener with a thought, something you mentioned off-air about fitness. We keep seeing these huge fourth quarters, Port Adelaide storming back, Adelaide dropping 33 points late. In a simulation, there's no fatigue. The dice don't get tired. So why does it feel like some teams finish stronger?
It is the million-dollar question. Is there a clutch gene in the algorithm? Or is it just that over a long enough timeline, the probability swings back? The data suggests some teams like Port Adelaide are finding ways to win those late-game variant swings. Whether that is luck or a hidden trait in the system, well, that's what we are watching for.
It's the ghost in the machine. We will be back after round 12 to see if that logjam has finally broken up or if we still have half the league tied for the exact same spot. Until then, check the stats, trust the process, and hope your team rolls a 6.
See you next time.